23 Nisan 1995'te İstanbul Devlet Güvenlik Mahkemesi avlusunda yola çıkan düşünce suçuna karşı girişim 27. yaşına erişti. Bir makalesi nedeniyle bölücülük propagandası suçlamasıyla mahkemeye çıkan Yaşar Kemal'e destek olmak için bir araya gelişimizin üzerinden geçen 27 yıl. Gelin önce biraz hafızalarımızı tazeleyelim.
The petition campaign that started on January 23, 1995 as a reaction against the subpoena against Yaşar Kemal due to an article published on Der Spiegel turned into a civil disobedience protest, giving birth to the Initiative for Freedom of Expression. The signatories claim that they would participate in the crimes of whoever is charged based on the expression of their thoughts, no matter if they agreed with the thoughts or not.
1,080 intellectuals from Turkey and the world republished 10 articles causing prosecution of their writers in a book, Freedom of Thought, thus committing a new kind of crime, denouncing themselves as prosecutors' office and forcing them to file lawsuits.
Afterwards, little booklets were published initially once a week, later once a month, partaking in the crimes of thought criminals. There were all kinds of people among the thoughts and identity standing beside one another: Kurds, Kemalists, believers, atheists. The aim of everyone was to force the government to change the anti-democratic law. The number of booklets published in 5 years reached 48, and the number of disobedient civilians denouncing themselves at the prosecutor's office reached 1,278. 9 verdicts of non-prosecution were issued for the civil disobedience protests, and 6 lawsuits were filed. 2 of those 6 concluded with conviction. Our initiative spokesperson Şanar Yudatapan and journalist Nevzat Onaran were imprisoned. However, the book Freedom for Thought for Everyone, published in 2000, broke a world record with signatures of 77,663 people. Freedom for Thought book series are being annually published since 2001 as a series of reports reflecting the status of freedom of expression in the country.
Her doğum günümüzde olduğu gibi bu yılda raporlarımızı yayınladık. Düşünceye özgürlük raporlarının 22.sini internet sitemizde, 2021 video almanağını da YouTube kanalımızda bulabilirsiniz. Biz yine şimdiki zamana dönelim. İşte geçtiğimiz 7 günün yaşananlarından seçtiklerimiz.
The heavy snowfall in Istanbul paralyzed the city. As always, the government did not accept any responsibility and blamed the municipality. The world's 4th most expensive airport, whose construction continued despite all objections from the public opinion, was closed to flights for more than 30 hours, and the roof of the cargo building collapsed. The 2 ministers who came to Istanbul during this period did not land at the big project of the government, but instead landed at Atatürk Airport, which was closed for the sake of the new airport. When the passengers who were stuck at the airport for hours shouted, "We need hotel," riot police gathered at the airport.
New immunity summaries arrive at the parliament. In the first 4 weeks of 2022, 62 separate summaries were sent to the parliament against 36 parliament members.
Interior Minister Süleyman Soylu, who appointed trustees to dozens of municipalities, hosted 2 Justice and Development Party mayors in his office who were sentenced to prison in the lawsuit where they were charged with bid rigging and whose dismissal was decided by the court through notifying the Ministry of Interior.
According to the data released by the Interior Ministry, 881 personnel have been issued disciplinary penalties due to torture and ill treatment in the first 5 years, and only 12 of the 2,594 law enforcement officers investigated regarding the allegations of disproportionate force and torture have been sentenced. The data once again revealed that the impunity policy in the country is maintained as a widespread and systematic state practice.
The Chief Prosecutor's Office of the Council of State stated that it is against the law to exit an international convention with a presidential decree in the case regarding the annulment of the decree to withdraw from the Istanbul Convention, which was heard at the 10th Chamber of the Council of State. The Prosecutor's Office further expressed its opinion to annul the decree. At least 27 women have been murdered since the beginning of 2022.
While the protests continue against the trustee rector Naci İnci at Boğaziçi University, 3 elected deans were dismissed by the Council of Higher Education. stating that the appointed rectorate aims to create new damages through the appointed deans to be brought from the top. The academic said, "Our 51-year tradition of free, autonomous, democratic governance has been destroyed by top-to-down appointments and unlawful dismissals."
23-year-old Abdul Ghaffar Dayan, who was hit by a Ranger-type armored vehicle on his way to the classroom in Cizre, Şırnak on January 24th, died 2 days later in the hospital he was taken to. According to the data of the Human Rights Association, 43 civilians, including 20 children, have died under law enforcement vehicles since 2008.
The mandate of the State of Emergency Procedures Investigation Committee has been extended for another year. The committee, which was established for 2 years and whose mandate was extended twice before, accepted only 16,060 out of 126,783 applications since 2017, and the review process continued for 6,080 applications.
Turkey was ranked 96th among 180 countries in Transparency International's 2021 Corruption Perception Index and has lost 12 points and dropped 43 places since 2013. It was among the countries that lost the most points in the last 10 years.
Geçtiğimiz haftaya bir de ifade özgürlüğü penceresinden bakalım dedik. Ancak ortalık yine kapkaranlıktı.
Sezen Aksu, who was targeted because of her reference to Adam and Eve in a song she sang years ago and threatened by President Erdogan with her tongue being cut out, responded to the attacks against her with the song Hunter, which she wrote and has the lyrics, "You cannot kill me. I have my voice, my instrument, my word. When I say I mean everyone." As a result, I have been writing for 47 years. I will continue to write. Aksu's answer was translated into 56 languages in a short time.
Journalist Sedef Kabash, who was targeted by the authorities after she recited a Circassian proverb in the television show she attended, was detained from her home at midnight. While the journalist was at the police station, the Minister of Justice gave the verdict against her. The journalist was then taken to the courthouse and was arrested for insulting the president. It has been understood that the arrest decree issued against Kabash was issued by the Istanbul 10th Criminal Judge of Peace Bilgehan Ertem, who cited suspicious escape as the reason for the decree, did not fulfill the 4-year term of office determined by the Council of Judges and Prosecutors as a new criterion in the criminal judicatures of peace, and was the judge who also issued the arrest of Osman Kavala.
The targeting of Aksu and the arrest of Kabash caused reactions from the art world, including writers, rights advocates, and lawyers. On the other hand, 1,032 citizens who issued a statement for Aysel Tuğluk, Osman Kavala, Sezen Aksu, and Sedef Kabash stated, "The country's administration is rapidly moving away from the democratic principles. Apart from the prison conditions symbolized by Aysel Tuğluk, threats against citizens, interference with the judiciary, unlawful detentions and arrests, as well as the events regarding Osman Kavala, Sezen Aksu, and Sedef Kabash became the last straw."
The Radio and Television Supreme Council imposed an administrative fine of 5% and a program suspension for 5 times against Tele1 channel due to the show to which Sedef Kabash attended as a guest. The council also fined Fox TV 3% for primetime newscaster Selçuk Tepeli's criticism of Erdogan's economic policies. The sum of the fines issued against the 2 channels totaled up to 6 million Turkish liras.
According to the 2021 statistics of the European Court of Human Rights, Turkey once again became the country with the highest number of cases before the European Court of Human Rights after Russia. In 76 of the 78 applications concluded in 2021 regarding Turkey, it was ruled that at least one article of the European Convention of Human Rights was violated by Turkey. Of the 85 court decrees for violations of freedom of expression announced throughout 2021, 31 were delivered in cases filed against Turkey. Thus, Turkey once again became the one European country with the highest number of violations of freedom of expression.
A lawsuit was filed against lawyer Efkan Bolac, who shared 2 cartoons drawn by Brazilian cartoonist Carlos Latouf about Berkin Elvan and the miners of Soma on the charge of insulting the president. The first hearing of the case will be held on September 6th at the Istanbul 52nd Criminal Court of First Instance.
An indictment was issued against lawyer Aslı Kazan, who recalled the actions of prosecutor leading the arrest of Osman Kavala on social media. Kazan was charged with insult in the indictment, which was prepared upon the complaint of Hasan Yilmaz, who was elected as a member of the Council of Judges and Prosecutors and is currently the Deputy Minister of Justice.
A new investigation has been launched against People's Liberation Party chairman Nurullah Ankut Efe on charges of insulting the president after he made a press statement in front of the courthouse where he came to testify within the investigation launched against him due to insulting the president and insulting a public official.
An investigation was launched against 20 women who participated in the march at the Taksim district of Istanbul on 25th of November, the day for the elimination of violence against women, on charges of insulting the president and violating the law of meetings and demonstrations.
The Turkish Statistical Institute filed a criminal complaint against the Inflation Research Group, established by academics who are experts in the field of economics, on the grounds of violation of personal rights. Inflation Research Group manager and Cumhuriyet Daily writer Professor Veysel Ulusoy said that within the scope of the investigation, an interim injunction was taken and the research group's publications were requested to be stopped.
A lawsuit was filed against 2 citizens who reacted on social media against a statement of the Adana governorate, which claimed that Ali Al-Hamdan, who was killed by being shot with a police bullet, was shot by accident. The 2 citizens were charged with insulting a public official.
Zonguldak Kompas Daily reporter Aytaç Öztürk was detained at his home with a police raid in the early morning for sharing the news of public prosecutor Onur Üzgül, who had an accident with his car in the city center. The reason for his detention and the complainant were not disclosed to the journalist.
Bolu Type F Prison Administration banned the book Fugitive Writings, which consists of sealed letters of imprisonment writers and poets, as seen. While the book was not given to one of its authors, Erol Zabar, on the grounds that it would endanger the security of the institution. The appeal against his application was rejected by the execution judge, who claimed that the book was in fact illegal.
The European Court of Human Rights ruled that the right to freedom of expression, compensation for unlawful detention, as well as the right to freedom of security of Die Welt reporter Deniz Yücel, who was imprisoned for 1 year in Silivri prison on charges of making propaganda for a terrorist organization and public incitement towards resentment and hostility, were violated.
Kar yağışı 2 gün boyunca İstanbul'da adliyelerde davaların görülmesini de engelledi. Takibini yaptığımız 5 davanın duruşmaları görülemezken yine de adliye mesaimiz bu haftada yoğunluğundan hiçbir şey kaybetmedi.
Former People's Democratic Party co-chair Selahattin Demirtas, who was tried of charges of insulting the then Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu for the speech he gave at Manson rally of his party in 2016, was sentenced to 11 months and 20 days in prison. The next hearing of the lawsuit filed against Demirtas in Manson on the charge of insulting the president based on the speeches he gave between 2014 and 16 will be held on February 18.
The latest hearing of the lawsuit filed against 4 leftist party members on the charge of insulting the president due to the statements, "One man will leave and the people will rule," and "The real problem is this monstrous one-man regime itself," in the leaflets they distributed in Hopa district of Artvin, was held at the Hopa Second Criminal Court of First Instance. The case resulted in acquittal.
The lawsuit filed against journalist Vedat Öztekin on the charge of insulting the president due to sharing 2 cartoons, one of which was drawn by Carlos Latouf, has started at the Diyarbakır 7th Criminal Court of First Instance. The court adjourned the case to May 31, issuing that the journalist who did not attend the hearing because he was abroad would be summoned to the next hearing by force.
The trial of poet Yılmaz Odabaşı, who is accused of public incitement towards resentment and hostility due to a social media post, started at the Alanya 6th Criminal Court of First Instance. The second hearing of the case was scheduled for May 12th.
The trial of Roboski families, who have been seeking justice for 10 years, will continue on March 7 on charges of making propaganda for a terrorist organization.
The case against journalist Ramazan Akol on the charge of terrorist organization membership was adjourned to May 10th. The case against imprisoned journalist Devrim Ayık was adjourned to April 8th. The case against journalist Derya Okatan on the charge of making propaganda for a terrorist organization was adjourned to April 21st. The case of journalist Engin Korkmaz on the charge of insulting the president was adjourned to May 13th.
The lawsuit filed against Buse Söğütlü, an online reporter for Gazete Yolculuk, on the charge of targeting someone who took part in the fight against terrorism due to her social media posts has been adjourned to next week due to the change of the chief judge of the courts. The trial of journalist Hatice Şahin will continue on April 18 on the charge of terrorist organization membership.
The lawsuit filed against journalist Çetin Kurşun on the charge of terrorist organization membership was adjourned to May 12th. The case against Eren Keskin, editor-in-chief of the previously shut down Özgür Gündem Daily, and managing editor Reyhan Çapan was adjourned to May 24th.
Böylece 27. yaşımızın ilk haftasını geride bırakıyoruz. Düşünce suçuna karşı girişimin ifade özgürlüğü peşinde geçirdiği 27 yılda çok şey değişti elbet. Ancak bazı şeylerse hiç değişmedi. Nitekim geçtiğimiz haftaya bir bakmak bile bunu göstermeye yetiyor. Biz yine de 27. yaşımızdan umutlu olmak istiyoruz. Tüm düşünce suçlularına ve düşünce özgürlüğü savunucularına sonsuz saygı ve selamlarımızla.